Aquaman, or Aquaman, we say Aquaman in Australia, is the sixth movie, but maybe the fourth course correction, in the worlds of DC. Because, every movie feels like a knee-jerk reaction to the last, or something, who even knows? But like all comic book movies, it has a bunch of Easter eggs, including connections to the source materials, locations, the appearance of popular and lesser-known characters, nods to previous DC movies, and just references in general, Anyways, these are the topics I'm going to be covering if you feel like jumping around a bit. Like to say, the mid-credits scene. Knock yourself out. But not before you've liked, commented, and subscribed. What am I doing? Is this my life? Okay, spoilers for Aquaman 2018. Don't say I didn't warn you. Let's have fun with this one, everyone. Kicking things off with our lead character, Aquatic Human, or Aquaman for short. His comic book powers all appear to be present in the film, including a resistance to human weapons, bullets, swords, and grenade launchers, due to the ocean depths making his skin difficult to penetrate. Though, of course, he is still vulnerable to Atlantean weapons. He's also able to communicate with fish, with more intelligent creatures, like a big old kraken or a whale. It can be a bit of a convo, but with your standard sea creatures, your fish, stingrays, your drumming octopi, we'll get back to him. He can more suggest what they should do, and then they say, we'll do it! And of course, he's able to move at immense speed whilst swimming and is capable of breathing underwater. This version also pays homage to his heritage with a jade toki pendant and glimpses of the haka, the traditional war dance. His future wife Mera is also present. She can do most of the things that he can do with the exception of fish chit-chat, but she's also the master of water manipulation or hydrokinesis. Why is she alone able to do this? Who is to say? Though in some version of the comics, it's something exclusive to her race of underwater people. We get Volko, chief advisor to the Atlantean king, though in the books he's taken on a number of roles including doctor, professor, commander, and king in Earth 2. Willem Dafoe, or really Willem Defriend with this character, am I right, was supposed to appear in Justice League, but had his scenes cut because they reshot most of that movie and they removed a mustache seamlessly off Superman, if I'm remembering that correctly, which I almost certainly am. Arthur Curry's parents rock up, Queen Atlanta, and Tom Curry. In some versions of the comics, he's a lighthouse keeper when they first meet, and other times he's an ocean explorer. The Silver Age version of him has him also as the father of Ocean Master, but the relationship with Atlanta is pretty close to what we got in the New 52 run. As for the villains, we get Orm and Black Manta. Orm is the half-brother of Aquaman, and initially in the comics, he was actually fully human, disappearing for years after living a life feeling overshadowed by his brother, but then rocking up as Ocean Master, post spending some time pirating and just being a shit bloke. But again, this version we see takes its cues from the New 52, where he's the ruler of Atlantis, as his mother was the queen and was forced to marry a local dude. In that version though, it's suspected by Volko that he killed his mother for the throne to then rule and then mount an attack on the surface world. Funny thing about this version of Orm, because normally he's depicted with darker hair, with Arthur being blonde. But for this movie, that was reversed with the casting of Jason Momoa. He was intentionally made to resemble the comic book version of Aquaman instead, with blonde hair and blue eyes. That's a fun fact! We also have Black Manta, Aquaman's sworn enemy. He's had a wild ride in the comics. He's done the pirate thing, but also there's a storyline where he killed Aquaman's son, and also one where he and Aquaman killed each other's fathers. Also one time he was turned into a human manta ray hybrid, and one other time, King Shark bit his face off. Who knows which of these stories we'll get around to in the sequel, but I suspect it might be the one where he cuts off Aquaman's hand. He also is seen post-credits, teaming up with Dr. Stephen Shin, but we'll talk more about that when we get into the post-credits. Believe you me. We get various comic book locations, including the 7 underwater kingdoms, though it's tweaked a bit for the movie, so we get the Atlanteans, ruled over by Orm, the Zabel, ruled over by Dolph Lundgren, the Fishermen, who are more philosophers and fish than anything else, the Trench, the home of devolved lunatic monsters, the Brine, just a bunch of big old crabs, and the Deserters, a race of dead people who don't live there anymore because the ocean became a desert and they're all dead, as mentioned. We also journey to the center of the earth to visit the missing kingdom. It's very reminiscent of Journey to the Center of the Earth with the trees and the dinosaurs and the whatevs. And we also get Amnesty Bay, Arthur Curry's surface home, which in the movie universe is in Maine, but Massachusetts in the comics. It's like 4 S's in that word. As for the comic links though, there's aplenty. As mentioned, this is largely based off the recent-ish New 52 run by Jeff Johns, whom also serves as one of the writers on this project. It's not a coincidence. That trident Arthur is trying to recover, the one trident to rule them all, bears some similarities to the dead king's scepter. This might be more of a coincidence, but you know how there's one entrance into Atlantis via a very colourful bridge? That seems very reminiscent of the Asgard Rainbow Bridge from Thor. Seeing as something like this doesn't appear to be from any Aquaman comic I've ever read, and I have read several At least, probably. But remember that octopus playing the drums? Yeah, that's Aquaman's mate Topo, or Topo. The DC universe has gotten a bit silly since Superman knocked down that city in Man of Steel, hasn't it? We get both the GBS News channel, which is lifted directly from the comics, as well as the Coast City Gazette, the hometown of the illustriously Green Lantern. Well, the Hal Jordan one. There's like a bunch of them. Thousands! Too many, some say. And by some, I mean me. I'm saying that. Aquaman is seen riding a giant seahorse, something ripped right from the comics, and also the 1960s cartoon series. Speaking of that show, though, it appears they replicated the communicating to fish noise from that, right along with the water ripples that also show up in the comics. Mitch, could you put in that clip of him summoning the turtle, and then I'll send it to you. You know the one. It's fucking weird.
Now, from Aquaman's brain, telepathic emanations fan out through the deep, summoning a giant sea turtle.
The comic book costumes are also dead on, including the green and gold Aquaman suit that I, for one, think looks amazing, especially compared to that weird metal crab shell thing we've previously seen him in. Black Manta is also as accurate as you can get. The first version of his helmet, the one that explodes, being pretty close to the 1960s comic version, and his second one being more streamlined and closer to what we get in the newer comics. Ocean Master's war outfit, you know, the purple one with the mask, it's pretty dead on. They are all wearing the dumbest, but also best comic book outfits I think I've ever seen, and I love it. Now, there isn't a hell of a lot of links to the Worlds of DC film series. Again, this appears to be acting as some kind of soft reboot off the back of Justice League's spectacular run in cinemas. But the references are there if you care to pay attention, which you may not, that's fine. For one, Mera straight up mentions Steppenwolf by name. You know, that Justice League villain that we all loved and didn't instantly forget. She also says that he defeated Steppenwolf. Is that what he told her? Because really, he just got beat up a bunch until Superman decided to show up and just do everything. Come to think of it, Superman probably could have got that trident from the giant crab squid monster in a second, I bet. Or just torn the head off Orm like he was peeling a banana. You know, he's probably too busy though, too busy just not being in his own solo movie. Aquaman is also somewhat of a celebrity and is known in the world, probably off the back of revealing himself in Justice League. And remember this Unite the Seven poster from Batman v Superman? That poster that's like 5 years old maybe? Well, now it makes sense and may have actually even meant something at the time or a different thing. I don't know. I don't think they knew. And we get a little Wonder Woman reference with a newspaper article headline reading, Wonder Woman nixes Aquaman dating rumors. I mean, she probably wouldn't date him because he smells. Even underwater, it seems. Remember that in the movie? If people can smell you, even underwater, you should go to a doctor. This movie has a stack of other references. To name a few, it's said to be influenced by the like of Romancing the Stone and Indiana Jones, as well as director James Wan's horror roots with that trench sequence. In fact, when Mera, Volko, and Arthur first meet up in that sunken ship in Atlantis, the doll from Annabelle can be briefly spotted on the floor. The show on the TV that gets hit by a trident is the 1960s Stingray, a pre-Thunderbirds puppet deep-sea adventure series that I have never and will never watch. The Pinocchio movie and book are referenced when Arthur and Mera climb into a whale's mouth, and then when we get the children's book. Plus we get a cameo from Lee Winnell as Pilot. He, of course, co-created Saw and is a longtime collaborator and friend of James Wan. Also, Julie Andrews, Mary Poppins herself. Whatever the character's name she played in The Princess Diaries, herself. She voices the Carathon, that big crab squid monster guarding the trident. Also, when Black Manta says, I think I'm gonna need a bigger helmet, that must be a reference to this line from Jaws.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Also, James Wan included Pitbull's cover of Toto's Africa, as a nod to him directing Furious 7. He can explain it himself because, look, I'm nearly done, I'm pretty tired, and so's Mitch who's editing this probably.
Mate, I am unbelievably tired. Tired of hearing you bang on about Fish Boy, that is. Ha! Got him.
I know it seems, to some, it might seem a little bit weird, but it's almost like my little tribute to my Fast and Furious background.
Also, the injury Arthur receives to his shoulder is matched almost perfectly to the one that ended up killing him in Game of Thrones. In fact, when we see him awaken from being beaten half to death, his wrists are also wrapped in seaweed, similar to how he wore leather wrist straps, and he also has his hair tied up. It's all a Khal Drogo thing, man! Okay, post-credits, or mid-credits. There is nothing at the very end of this film. I googled it when I was in the cinema, and left early, like an absolute champion! Right, so we get Black Manta rescued by Dr. Stephen Shin, after he gets his head smashed in by a boulder-sized piece of concrete, and falls just a million feet into the ocean, just hitting every rock on the way down. Dr. Shin hopes that they can team up so they can find Atlantis. But here's the thing. In the comics, Stephen Shin is initially friends with the aquatic human. Aquaman for short. Until he won't tell him where Atlantis is, so then he attempts to murder the aquatic human. Aquaman for short. So some version of that, I'd imagine, is probably going to happen in the next movie. Also, I'm fairly confident, I'm a little bit confident, I'm not that confident, the Black Manta is going to cut off Aquaman's hand. Then maybe he's going to get his hook hand, or his magic water hand. That'd be sweet. Alright, any Aquaman Easter eggs that I've missed? I mean, probably. Please feel free to leave them below. And what do you want out of a sequel for this? If you want one at all. Other DC superheroes, what are we talking about here? Personally, I want an Aquaman-Superman team-up film where Superman takes him into space and Arthur Curry's like, this sucks, I hate space. Take me back to a bar. Literally any bar. Also, this Monday morning on my podcast, The Weekly Planet, where we talk movies and comics and TV shows, it's a bit of a bloody fun time. We're talking Aquaman, an in-depth review of sorts. That's linked below if you want to come along with some other videos that you may or may not enjoy. Who's to say? But thanks for watching this. I appreciate it. Take care.